I'm a serial entrepreneur, originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Left Cleveland and headed for the Bay Area in '97.
Mm.
Very interested in technology, and
Whoa.
so clearly the best place in the world to be is Silicon Valley. So headed out west, and worked for some pretty large companies like Xerox, EMC, Parametric Technology, and then eventually started a mobile gaming company that I sold in 2005, and then started Fizzle soon after.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So been at this for coming up on 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, 97, man, that's before it was even cool.
Yeah, yeah, right. Right before the dot-com.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was selling enterprise software, so we were immune to the devastation of the dot-com era. So,
Yeah. Nice.
but I had a front seat on the sideline, and it was a crazy time.
Yeah. Yeah, we've only had a couple of those in the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Man, incredible. I feel like, going 97, if you just bought property back then, like,
yeah. You could
for
say,
the
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah. Incredible, man. So, okay, so you worked for some big companies and then you set off on your own. What was the plan always to the serial entrepreneur route? How did sort of doing your own thing present itself?
Yeah, so I did not. My journey did not include a plan to become an entrepreneur. However, entrepreneurism is in my blood. Um,
Hmm.
my dad was an entrepreneur, my grandfather an entrepreneur. As a youngster, I was always doing things to figure out how to make money. Working as little as possible. Um, summer jobs, non-traditional ways of making money in the summer when I was in college.
Hmm.
So that was always part of, what I was up to. And after getting passed over for a couple of promotions that I should have gotten, I
Mm.
thought that it's probably time for me to do something on my own where I'm not dependent upon someone else deciding my career path.
Hmm.
So, you know, I just figured out what I wanted to do, in terms of solving a problem in the marketplace, and went for it.
Hmm. Nice. And what was the first problem you were trying to solve?
Um, well, so I was selling CAD, CAM, and computer aided engineering software. So after I left parametric technology, I just started a really boutique consultancy where, I provided engineering services for different companies. And, it was a decent gig. I did it while I was working for another company, and, did okay. Not a no exit. I didn't sell the company. But then when I went off on my own completely 100%, um, was in 2002, and I started a mobile gaming company. Now you have to remember, this is pre-iPhone, pre-smartphone. So we're talking feature phones. I mean,
Whoa.
you may not even know what that is.
No, I'm 40, man. I
Okay,
I,
all right.
def I definitely had those.
You're on the cusp. Feature phones, flip phones, the Motorola, StarTACs, Nokias, those were really the big phones that had a lot of traction. And I'm not a video gamer, but it was really clear that video gaming was really gaining a lot of momentum. It's going to become a big business as it is today.
Hmm.
And so just happened to have some friends at ESPN and another friend from Seoul, Korea, who had access to some games that we could rebrand, and literally went to ESPN in 2002, pitched them on a deal to build and publish ESPN branded video games. And 15-minute meeting with John Skipper at the time resulted in a deal where we built about 15 games for ESPN, sold them on every carrier in the US, a lot of carriers in Europe as well. And
Hmm.
that, of course, led to some other games like with Wimbledon and the British Open and Yamaha and others.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. So you're not even a gamer and you're just like, I can tell that this is going to be I mean, because yeah, you saw that years ahead, like mobile games with smartphones.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
exploded.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think anyone with half sense would know that cell phones were going to become a huge business, and that every single person would have a phone with them if it was affordable, you know?
Hmm.
So merging the concept of video games and cell phones just made sense. It
Yeah, yeah. What was the name of that business?
was called Pixium.
Pixium. Okay, cool. And how long did you run that company before you did something else?
3 years. So started it in 2002,
Wow.
sold it in 2005. And so, I was like, oh man, this is great. I'm gonna, 20 years from now, I will have started and sold like maybe, eight or nine companies. And after I sold Pixium, I started Fizzle, and I'm still, running.
Yeah.
Albeit, we made, a major pivot, 5 or 6 years ago. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
two companies, but I think you get where I'm coming from.
Okay. And is there any consideration for these companies starting with the letter P?
No, no, Pixium, we went through some branding exercises, and I don't even remember how we came up with the name Pixium. But for Fizzle, um, Fizzle is the Urban Dictionary definition of phone. And
Uh,
that,
Fizzle.
yeah, Fizzle, Phizzle. And if you have two consonants in a row, you're like 40% more likely to remember the name. So
Oh,
Fizzle,
is that right?
yeah, 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 more or less. So Fizzle made sense, and maybe my next company will start with a P as well.
Wait, so the Z's, both Z's in a row makes it more
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Fizzle. Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Nice. So why did you sell Pixium?
So yeah, we had an offer on the table from a partner. Um, my the two guys that I started the company with, we weren't completely aligned on the strategy and the path that we wanted to take for the business. And so it made sense to sell the company to get out, make a little bit of money,
Hmm.
uh, you know, and we could have we probably could have built a bigger business, um, but it was really tough. I mean, there were for each phone, we had to figure out how to configure the game to each phone. There was not one size fits all. And so our testing facility, I mean, we literally had thousands of phones, lots of people trying to figure out how to get the games to work properly on each phone. It was a lot of work. It's not anything close to today's um, production and deployment of games. You've got a handful of smartphones, and it's almost a one size fits all kind of deal. But it was not the
Hmm.
back then. So I was like, this is a lot of work. If we could sell it, which we did, then let's do that and move on.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. Awesome. So then after you sold Pixium, that's when you started Fizzle?
Yeah, I fulfilled my 6 month obligation to the new company, and on day 180, I turned in my resignation, and I had been working on a business plan for Fizzle, and started it, right thereafter.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. What was the initial idea and how did it evolve?
Yeah, so the initial idea was mobile marketing, with a path to fan engagement. So I love sports, I love technology. From the very beginning, I knew phones were going to produce lots and lots of data. Um, so the idea was to leverage the content that sports fans create, to understand who they are, what their interests are, what they're into, and help sports teams, leagues, franchises, personalities understand who their customer and fan base are and do a better job of marketing to those folks. And
Hmm.
so the initial the initial deployment consisted of text messaging and mobile web. And then eventually, we built out kind of in-venue applications so fans could interact with call to action campaigns on the jumbotron or digital signage and even television.
Hmm.
So first customers were NBA, NHL teams, as well as sports broadcasters.
Hmm. Okay. Awesome. That's great. You're able to kind of connect your two loves, technology and sports.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a blast. So
Yeah, yeah. So has Fizzle been your main focus what since 2005?
yeah, that's right.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um yeah. What is Fizzle focused on these days?
So in 2018, end of 2018, beginning of 2019, we made a really significant pivot. Um, we kind of had plateaued in terms of our revenue and on the sports and fan engagement side. We were a little bit early in terms of what we were trying to do.
Hmm.
Had some missteps in terms of our development, and we tapped out close to $5 million a year in revenue. We're venture funded, and so running a company that could provide a decent lifestyle was in no one's interest. So I had to figure out how um, to grow and continue
Hmm.
scaling, and we were not going to be able to scale the way that we were headed in terms of the fan engagement technology. Fortunately, the infrastructure of our technology was based on data, and so it doesn't matter if it's data produced by humans or data produced by machines. And so we made a significant pivot, from consumer generated information to focusing on machine generated information. Um, we had done a lot of work with Cisco. Cisco, John Chambers, the former CEO, was a big sports fan. So he created something called Stadium Vision, which is a digital signage system that's used by lots of different arenas and stadiums all over the world. And we did a lot of projects with Cisco, providing the call to action campaigns that ran on Cisco's Stadium Vision system. And so when we made the decision to make a major pivot, my first call was to Cisco, who was really a pioneer when it came to IoT, the Internet of Things. They even took it a
Hmm.
step further and, you know, coined the term Internet of Everything. And so called Cisco, pitched them on a partnership to utilize our technology as an extension to what they were trying to do. They bought it. We did a project for autonomous driving. That did not work out. We did another project um, with Lockheed Martin. That did not work out. And then finally, third time's a charm. We did a project with Merck, and it actually worked this time. And we ended up building a a platform for Merck that allowed them to automate the operation and data transformation of multi-vendor, multi-types of scientific instruments. So, when you're manufacturing drugs and vaccines, as you can imagine, there are tons of different types of scientific instruments that goes into the production process to create, these to transform these molecules into drugs and vaccines. And each machine, produced by different manufacturers, produces data in different formats.
Hmm.
And so at some point in the process, you've got to convert all of that data into one single format. And it's mostly done manually using pen and paper. So there's a big effort in pharma manufacturing to digitize and automate, manual processes. And so that's the problem that we have attacked in pharma.
Hmm. Wow. That's a wild pivot there.
I mean, yeah, people that, friends of mine and colleagues, I mean, you talk about a true 180-degree pivot. This is the epitome of the pivot.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So who are your customers for this? It's users of
Yeah.
Merck scientific equipment?
Yeah, it's the actual pharmaceutical manufacturer.
Okay.
Pharma manufacturer, they are buying and using lots of scientific instruments produced by companies like Thermo Fisher and Danaher and Lighthouse, Climate, Aerotrack, I mean, there's literally thousands of different manufacturers that are manufacturing, these scientific instruments. And the science behind these instruments are pretty amazing in terms of what they can do, but the operating systems and the software that operates these instruments are kind of a secondary thought. A lot of these instruments are still using Windows CE based operating system. That's another one that well, you're 40, so yeah, you definitely don't know about Windows CE.
I know
Um,
95, I think
yeah,
was the
yeah,
earliest one.
yeah. So, a lot of the operating systems and the software are really antiquated. So, we saw a really good opportunity to modernize these instruments, with a modern, software-defined architecture, that could work across multi-vendor and multi-types of instruments.
Mhm. Wow. Okay. And how do you find clients?
Well, we've had a lot of success with Merck in terms of the ROI
Hmm.
and, the transformation of lab techs, engaging with the instrument, at the instrument, and then kind of providing a new way of doing things. So, Merck is saving lots of time, lots of money. They're reducing mistakes. And, all of the Mercks and the Pfizers, they all talk and they all have the same kind of problem.
Hmm.
Well, taking that case study and socializing it, in the industry is largely how we've gone out and, tried to deploy our solution broadly. But
Hmm.
ultimately, pharma manufacturing is a very tough nut to crack. Um, but ultimately, our scalability will really be defined by some of the partnerships that we are formalizing now.
Hmm. Okay. Gotcha. So it's kind of word of mouth referrals, Merck preferred vendor, not a lot of direct marketing.
Yeah, yeah. So we've really spent the last couple of years trying to fully understand the value chain. And so we haven't even gone through a formal announcement of our products, of our solutions. That's something that we're actually going to be doing in the next couple of months.
Hmm.
In working with Merck, really the idea was to figure out how to build, the perfect solution that addresses every need, within that value chain. As an example, so our software is dependent upon connectivity, and connectivity, Wi-Fi access in clean rooms are very difficult, just because of the construction. And so, um, initially, we hosted our software on Cisco IR829 routers, Supermicro routers, but those weren't a great fit, for a variety of reasons. So every time there was a problem with either the router or the network, and our platform was impacted by that problem, it didn't matter if it was our problem or not. If our platform wasn't working, it was our problem. And so we got lots and lots of calls, and we found ourselves having to troubleshoot issues that weren't related to our platform. And so we knew that in order to really scale our company, our products, we had to solve a problem that wasn't ours. So we literally built our own edge, puck, device that brings secure connectivity and security inside of a clean room. And
Well,
this is the perfect device to host our software, inside of a clean room. And so we're not a hardware company, we're a software company. But um, like I said, in order to scale, we had to solve that problem. So last year, we developed, this device. We've sold a bunch of them to Merck. We're going to be making an announcement of the puck literally next week, where we're going to tell the world that we have developed the first and only clean room compliant, um, computer that's embedded into a gateway, that's waterproof. Uh,
hmm.
and so, finally, after 2 or 3 years, we're ready to really be aggressive in our marketing and sales outreach.
Nice. That's incredible. You guys are just you're like, we're a software company, but this issue is just throwing a monkey wrench in everything we're doing, so we're gonna make some hardware.
Yeah, yeah. I
Very
mean, if you told me, 5 years ago that you'd be, manufacturing hardware, I'd tell you you were crazy and I would never do that.
yeah, that's impressive, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we are coming towards the end of our time. Appreciate you going a little bit long. I have actually I have two questions before we stop. You seem to have really great instincts on what is just over the horizon. You knew mobile games were going to be big. You know, people engaging with sports on their phones was going to be big. Is there anything on your radar right now that might be just over the horizon?
Well, I think everyone knows this, but pharma, along with big industrial kind of applications, industries, are ripe for, digitization and automation. So people have been talking about digital transformation for a long time, but being able to implement it requires real innovation kind of in a micro deployment sense. So figuring out kind of the issues along that process is really the key to being able to actually do that. And so creating things like this puck and a platform are the real innovation, from digital within digital transformation.
Mhm. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. My final question for you, Ben. It's an open-ended question. You can take it in any direction that you like. And the question is, what are you working towards?
What am I working towards? Well, my the my first goal is getting Fizzle to $50 million in annual revenue. I mean
Mm,
that what I'm working towards.
mhm,
And I see that as a combination of um, our platform, our software, our edge puck, and really providing AI ready data. Pharma is really poised for a huge transformation in terms of speed to market, as well as speed to development. And clearly, AI is in the middle of those conversations. And if we can provide AI ready data, then the industry is poised for, um, a lot of innovative transformation.
mm. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Ben. This was a real pleasure, man. You seem to like figure things out effortlessly, and you're just like, yeah, it just seemed obvious
Well, thank you.
for like years ahead of like what is to come. So very very excited to continue watching your journey. Where can my audience find out more about you?
Website is www.fizzle.com. We're on all the social channels. You can find us. Um, Fizzle, I think we're the only Fizzle around. There was a rapper named Jazzy. I'm not sure if he's around anymore. So
Yeah, yeah. You guys could do a collab.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Ben, and to all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep on growing out there, everybody. See ya.